How's everybody doing out there today? Thanks for joining. My name is DJ Danny Dan, and thank you for coming over and watching this video. So, I wanted to start a series about DJ tips, basically, just giving some advice to DJs. And this can be for new DJs, old DJs, DJs getting back into it. I just kind of wanted to, if I can help somebody with some advice, experience that I did, things that'll help them out, then hey, let's get it going. So, this is DJ tip, and we're going to call this video DJ tip number one. The title of it's going to be So You Want to Be a DJ. So, anybody that's getting into being a DJ, the very first question you need to ask yourself is, what type of DJ do you want to be? And what I mean by that is there are many, many kinds of DJs. Now, I know this might be a new concept to everybody, but there is a difference between your mobile DJ, your club DJ, your event DJ, radio DJ. These are all different types of DJs, and they all take different types of mentalities and experiences to do. For instance, mobile DJs. There is a difference between being just somebody that does birthday parties, backyard parties, that type of stuff, versus someone that does quinceañeras and weddings. So, the guy that does quinceañera and weddings, there's a lot that goes into that. You have to be a businessman. You have to be a roadie. You have to be up on your music. You have to be up on your equipment. Like, you have to have top-notch equipment. And you have to be very professional and have great customer service to do the quinceañera and weddings, because your professionalism is what's going to get you across. Okay, and not a lot of guys understand that. I've seen some guys do weddings, DJ weddings in shorts. Like, you can't do that. They're not going to, you have to remember, don't think about the quinceañera as your only event. You got to look at everybody out there, not only as, people that you need to get moving and dancing, but also prospective clients. You got to look at it as though everybody out there, if you do a good job, they might want to hire you. If you can get, one or two gigs out of every wedding or quinceañera you do, man, that's great. That's awesome. You're killing it. But if you're not professional, if you don't have great customer service, but that doesn't mean let them take advantage of you. Okay? Don't ever go into any event, anytime you're going to play, you make sure you have a contract in place and that you have a deposit on what before you even book the thing. Like, don't put it down in your calendar without it at least having the deposit on it. Okay? That's going to save you a lot of headache when you show up and they either canceled or they don't want you no more because they hired a band. Believe me, that happens. Seen it done. It's not cool. Okay? So, quinceañera, wedding DJs, very professional, top-notch equipment. Now, club DJs. Club DJs, a club DJ has to be on top of all the new music, what's hitting, but you also have to understand what plays at your club. What kind of club are you playing? You could have an old school club. You can be playing more of a house music club, more of a hip hop club. You have to understand your crowd and the genre that you're playing to. Club DJs, it's a lot of brain power. It's a lot of mentality, because they have to play to the crowd. They have to get their crowd out there. They have to remember how long have they been playing at 120 to 130 BPMs, because you don't want to kill out your crowd. You don't want to play that fast music for 2 hours straight and then your crowd's done and then they're just sitting the rest of the night. You got to have a good mix of sound. You got to know when to play the fast stuff and when to mellow it down, when to go into the slow songs, when to go to a old school track. You got to know your crowd. You got to play your crowd. And that's one thing I think a lot of DJs don't understand. I know when I started, I wanted everybody to hear what I wanted to hear. And I wanted to play what I wanted to play. And I learned real quick that that's not going to happen. So I think that's what pushed me into more of the remixes and the mixtapes and all that type stuff. Because when you play a venue, you have to get locked into a venue. Now, when I started mobile, doing friends parties, graduating to the quinceañeras. I've done sororities at Fresno State, sororities and fraternities. We've done a lot of their stuff. I remember me and DJ Fingers Flores did a fraternity, and it was crazy. I think that was probably the craziest one I ever done. I mean, yeah, I won't get into the story. If he wants to tell it, he could tell it. But yeah, that was a crazy night that night. But yeah, learning what type of DJ you want to be is going to get you far. Now, as far as ability, that's also going to determine what kind of DJ you're going to be. You got turntablists, and turntablists do nothing but cutting, scratching, doing tricks, and all that stuff. It's cool, but they're not out doing quinceañeras. They're not out doing, backyard parties. They're doing more of events. They're doing more of special guest spots, that type of stuff, because their ability to show what they can do is more of a look than it is a dance. You can't really dance when someone's up there doing their thing. You can, but it's going to be kind of weird looking. You know what I'm saying? And then there's radio DJs. Now, radio DJs are a special breed because a lot of them don't even have turntables. In this day and age, you can go on the internet and watch, like, The Breakfast Club. It's one of my favorites. And watch DJ Envy. Now, DJ Envy is a legit DJ. But when he's on the radio, you'll notice there's no turntables. It's just a mic, a control board, his two partners there. And, they're doing their morning show routine, The Breakfast Club, But there are radio DJs that mix. I think DJ Envy has an actual mix show that he mixes on. And there are DJs that do those mixes. In Fresno, there used to be J Swing, DJ Herb. Like, a lot of those guys were radio mix DJs, but they were DJ DJs. Back in the day, we used to DJ at the Fresno State Radio, KFSR, 90.7. Man, I can't tell you how many times we DJed there, but we DJed during the hip hop show, and it was a lot of mixing. I remember one time, I believe there was 4 DJs and 6 turntables, and we were all up there just mixing. And I remember that day, that was probably one of the best shows we ever had there. But yeah, doing that, you have to understand before you get started, where you're going to be at and what part of the DJ world you're going to be a part of. Now, when it comes to equipment, again, it's part of what type of DJ you're going to be. They have everything from the all-in-one controllers to, stuff like I have where each individual component is separate. I can switch out this turntable. I can switch out this one. I can put my 1200s here. I can switch out my mixer. It's not an all-in-one. I do like the control vinyls because I grew up with the 1200s. That's what I started DJing with. And when Shure stopped making the needles, the N44s, that's what I used. So I had to come up with an idea. I've tried the little CDJs, and I couldn't do it. I tried the little 7-inch platters. It wasn't comfortable for me. This was the very first thing that I found that was comfortable. It feels like the 1200s. It plays like the 1200s. So this is what I went with. Now, this is not a cheap setup. You could check the prices out for yourself, but this is not a cheap setup. Mixers have gone up so much. My first set of 1200s, I think I paid $300 a piece for my 1200s. And that was probably, well, I know it was in the 80s. I just think it's more like 85, 86-ish. I paid $300 a piece. And at that time, that was a lot of money. But I think now, if you do all the resellers, they're anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a piece for 1200s. And that's depending on if they're in really good condition. I've seen them go up as 15 to $2,000 a piece. So it just really depends. I mean, what type of DJ are you going to be? Do you need that expensive equipment? Now, I don't need this. I have 1200s. I could have put my 1200s up here. I did this because I'm not going anywhere. I don't DJ out in the world anymore. I DJ for myself. So I wanted something that I was comfortable with. So I went ahead and got me what I'm comfortable with. I didn't buy this setup to impress anybody. I didn't buy it to go out and DJ mobile gigs or anything like that. I bought this because this is what I was comfortable with. So make sure when you buy your equipment, you buy as to what type of DJ you're going to be. If you're going to be a quinceañera and wedding type DJ, you need top-notch equipment. You can't go to those venues with some raggedy equipment. It just ain't going to work out for you. It's going to be a hard sell. You need to get your equipment in order. And then if you're going to be, let's say, I've done where I've opened up for groups. Now, that's kind of that's not something you can say, oh, I want to be that type of DJ. That's just the kind of thing that happens. But let me give you some of that experience. So when you open up for a headliner, let's say you're opening up for, I don't know, pick somebody, Post Malone, right? You're gonna open up for him. That doesn't mean you're Post Malone's DJ. That just means you're kind of keeping the groove of the people in that mindset to enjoy the show. But depending who it is, like one of the first rules of opening a show is you never play that artist's music. Did you hear me? You never play that artist's music. And sometimes they'll write it into your contract when they hire you to do that show that you will not play their music. Because the last thing they want to do is you're coming out here and you're mixing up one of his songs and then he's got to come out here and perform that song. Because they don't give you his playlist. You don't know what he's going to play. But more than likely, if you're playing like one of his hottest tracks, he's probably going to do it. You know what I mean? So you got to take that into consideration. Now, if you're the one that engaged and went to go look for the job and they gave it to you, that's one thing. If they come to you and say, hey, we want you to open for Post Malone. I'm just using his name. I don't know his situation. But you get like a lot of these famous DJs like DJ Marshmallow and DJ Craze and all these top-notch DJs, Jazzy Jeff, Scratch Bastard, all these guys. They actually have, when they go do an event, they actually have what's called a writer contract. And it's kind of trippy, and I'm going to get into something that probably most of us regular DJs probably never really dealt with, but a writer contract, you get to ask for specific things like you want your own dressing room and you want, a case of bottled water or a case of Budweiser, whatever. You get to write all these things down that you're requesting to go play this venue. Now, usually that's reserved for the high celebrity DJs, but it can happen. So just be aware of that. But yeah, the next thing is your skill level. That is going to play a lot into what type of DJ you're going to be. Now, you can obtain any skill you want. All it really takes is your dedication into your craft, how much work you're going to put into your craft. But you can be any type of DJ you want. But if you're going to be, like I said, on that wedding and quinceañera level, you have to be very professional. Weddings, we have what's called wedding DJs. There's what's called the wedding standards. And they're basically packs of songs that normally get played at all the weddings. I've seen different record pools that have like the playlist. I've seen DJs that'll help people out and say, "Oh, let me give you my wedding pack." And it's basically a USB that has all their wedding songs that they would play at a specific. But that doesn't mean you just put it in and press play. You still have to figure out what songs are going to be played that night. Now, another thing that I see a lot of, and I don't know where it's coming from, but I've seen DJs put in a pre-mixed like track, and it could be like a half hour, 45 minutes long, and it's a pre-mix. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that at a party. Don't ever do that at a wedding. Don't ever do that at a quinceañera. One of the talents of being a DJ is reading the crowd. You have to know how to read the crowd. You have to know what gets them going. And it's a talent. I think that's where DJs earn their money. When a DJ can really read a crowd and keep that crowd going and going and going and going. I've been to nightclubs where the DJ has been at that club for 10 years, and you go in there and every night that dance floor's packed. I've also been to clubs where everybody's just sitting and talking and having a good time. Okay? It takes a lot to understand the crowd and what type of crowd you're playing to, and you have to play to that crowd. You cannot play what you want to hear. I made that mistake when I first started out. I played what I wanted to hear. Okay? So understand that. A lot of it is, where do you want to go with DJing? Are you trying to be a celebrity DJ? Are you trying to make it a living? I know guys right now. I got DJ Fingers Flores. Good guy. I met him in the 8th grade. That's all he does for a living is DJ. That's his only gig. So he takes it very serious. He's very professional. He's got every type of equipment he needs. He also produces beats. Go check him out on Instagram, DJ Fingers Flores. He does a lot of DJ tip videos. He also sells packs. He has an acapella pack. He has a cumbia pack or Spanish music pack. Like, this is what he does full time. So you have to make a commitment when you start to be a DJ. How deep are you going to get into it? When I first started, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do was DJ. Then my son was born. Now I needed to be a parent. So I kind of laid back a little bit. Kind of quit going out and DJing out in the public. Started doing more low-key, more, one event here, one event there kind of thing. And life just got a hold of me. Now I do it as a hobby. I don't do it to impress anybody. I do it for me, which I think is better. For me, it is. I mean, I can play what I want, when I want, and as loud as I want. So that's your DJ tip. Like I said, this is going to be DJ tip number 1. What kind of DJ do you want to be? Thank you.